Okay, so today we are just going to review over some algebra problems that you've seen. You should have seen these types of problems in Algebra 1, but we're just going to make sure that you know how to do them because these types of equations will be used in the problems to come in this unit. So I'm just going to work a few of them, and then you'll finish up the page at the end of the day. So with multi-step equations, I'm going to skip number 1 just because you should know how to not FOIL but distribute into these equations and then solve them for x. But on number 2, if you look, you have a negative in front of this parentheses. So what you're going to do with that negative is you're going to take and distribute that sign into the parentheses. It's just going to change all of the signs within that parentheses. So you're going to have 167 minus 7x minus 3 equals 108. So now you can combine your like terms and you can solve. So I'll let you do that. Just make sure that you distribute any negative that might be in front of a parenthesis. So let's look at number 4. Number 3 and number 4 are similar. On number 4, what I would do first is I would get rid of the dividing by 2. I would multiply by 2 to both sides so that it'll cancel over here. You would multiply it over here by distributing it into the parenthesis. So you distribute the 2 within. You'd have 4x minus 14 equals the 8x minus 47 minus parenthesis 3x minus 14. You just have left what is up top of the fraction. So just like in the previous problem, you're going to take that negative and you're going to distribute it. So you'd have 4x minus 14 equals 8x minus 47 minus 3x. A negative and a negative will make that a positive 14. So combine your like terms, solve for x. So you're not done with that one, but I'm going to leave it like that and you can finish it later. So that's just a general idea of those 4 problems up at the top. Now down bottom, you need to remember to FOIL. Remember first, outer, inner, last. Okay? That's the order in which you multiply. So I'm going to work one of them with you, and then you can work the rest. So on number, let's see here, let's skip to number 7. Let's take the first times the first. 2x times 5x is going to be 10x squared. The outer, 2x times negative 2 will be negative 4x. The inner, negative 7 times 5x will give you negative 35x. And then the last, negative 7 times negative 2 will give you a positive 14. Then you're going to combine your like terms. 10x squared minus 39x plus 14. That's your answer. Now the ones down bottom where they're squared, it's just that you have to multiply them by themselves. So you have to do x plus 9 times another x plus 9. Same with number 10. 4x plus 3 times 4x plus 3. And you'll do the same process. First, outer, inner. Excuse me. Last. Oh, goodness. Okay. So let's look at the back page. Okay, factoring. Okay, so you may have learned to do this a little differently than I did. I'm going to show you my way. If you remember how to do it from last year, you're more than welcome to use whatever process you need to. But I'm going to show you how to do it the way that I learned. So what you're going to do on number 11 is you are going to look. You have x squared plus 10x plus 21. I start with the very last number. So what I'm looking for are factors of 21 that add to give me 10, positive 10. So I'm going to think about the factors of 21. What multiplies to give you 21? You have 1 and 21. 1 times 21 is 21. You have 3 times 7. Okay? Out of these factors, which ones will add to give you 10? Well, the 3 plus the 7 will. So you found your factors. So your factors are going to look something like this. X plus 3 times x plus 7. Okay? When you FOIL that out, it will give you this equation right here. So you're working backwards from what we were doing on the front page. So let's try a few more of those. Let's look at number 13. We're looking at factors of 96 that add to give me a negative 28. Okay? So I'm going to think of factors of 96. Now, like 21 was easy because it was a smaller number, but 96 isn't so small. And I don't have those factors memorized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my calculator. And I'm going to go to y equals, I'm going to type that number in, 96, and I'm going to divide it by x. So 96 divided by x. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit second graph. And I'm going to scroll up just so that I can see the factors. Now, I'm not worried about any of the decimal factors. So this is showing me that 1 times 96 will give me 96, 2 times 48, 3 times 32, 4 times 24. We're skipping 5 and 19.2 because we don't want a decimal. We have 6 and 16. So which ones will add to give me a 28? Think about it. What about 4 and 24? Will they add to give me 28? Yes, they will. So you have 4 and 24. Okay. Now, we want a negative 28 though. So they both are going to be negatives. Okay. Negative 4 plus a negative 24 will give me negative 28. So I'm going to have x minus 4 and x plus, minus. Gotta have white out. X minus 24. Okay, those are my two factors. Okay, so let's look down at number 15 now. Now I don't have a middle term like I had on those. I only have two terms there. This is called the difference of squares. You've heard of this before. Where this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. So what is the square root of 64? Should be 8. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to have two factors that look like this. X minus a number and x plus a number. It's always going to be minus and plus with the difference of squares. And then the number that goes here is the square root of your constant. The square root of the constant is 8. So it's x minus 8, x plus 8. Okay, works the same way on number 16. You're going to have a plus, and you're going to have a minus. The square root of this 9x squared is going to be 3x. 3x times 3x will give me 9x squared. The square root of 1 is just 1. Okay? Okay, and then we have a couple more problems that are just a little bit more difficult here. If you look at number 17, the reason that it's more difficult is because its coefficient is 4 instead of just being 1. All of these coefficients were just 1. But this one's coefficient is 4. So what you have to do is you have to think, okay, is there a greatest common factor that I can factor out of these numbers? can I take a number out of every single thing here? I can. I should be able to take out 4 from everything. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take out a 4 from each term. And if I do that, I'll have x squared plus x. And then 80 divided by 4 is 20. So I have minus 20. So I'm just going to ignore this 4 for the time being. And I'm going to factor this just like I would any of the other factors up here. So I'm thinking of factors of 20 that subtract to give me, this should be a 1. It's an imaginary 1. So factors of 20 that subtract to give me 1. Okay? So I have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Which ones will subtract to give me 1? 4 and 5. So I should have 5 minus 4 will give me 1. So I'm going to keep the 4 out in front because I still have it, it's still a part of my equation. But then I'm going to have x plus 5 and x minus 4. Okay. So the next one, number 18, this time the 2 can't be taken out of everything because there's not a 2 in front of the x. So this one is worked differently. What you're going to do is you're going to take that front number, if it won't go away, and you're going to multiply it by the back number, 2 times 28. That will give you 56. So you're thinking of factors of 56 that will subtract to give you a negative 1. So 1 and 56, you can use the y equals if you need any help. 56 divided by x. So you have 1 and 56, 2 and 28, 4 and 14. You have 7 and 8. Those will subtract. If you do 7 minus 8, that will give you a negative 1. So that's what you're looking for. But you're not done yet because that 2 made things a little bit more difficult. So the one extra step that you have to do on these problems, I set up a t-chart. I set up 2x and 2x, and then I put the factors underneath, 7 and negative 8 underneath. And I see if they can reduce like a fraction. These can't, so it would stay the same. It'd be 2x plus 7. But these can reduce. The 2 and the 8 can reduce by 2, so this would become 1, and this would become negative 4. So this would just be x minus 4. That's how you do those. Okay. The last thing that we're going to look at is quadratic equations. Okay, so your quadratic equation, you learned about this last year as well. It's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root. I don't know if I have enough room. But b squared minus 4ac, and this is going to be all over 2a. Okay, so a, b, and c are just the coefficients of our x squared, and our constant. So this is a, this is b, and this is c. Okay, a in this case is 1, b in this case is a negative 9, the sign matters, and c in this case is a positive 20. So you're just going to take those numbers and you're going to plug it into your equation. So x is going to equal a negative b, well this is already negative so it would become a positive 9, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 9 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 20, all over 2a. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to plug all of this into your calculator all at once. Okay, so if you have a calculator like mine, follow along. or newer calculator. My calculator should work. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to work it one way, the first way. This will work on all calculators, so I'm just going to show you the way that it'll work every time. I'm going to put a parenthesis, 9. Notice how it says plus or minus. We're going to start with a plus. And then you're going to start your square root. You're going to put negative 9 in parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses 1 parentheses 20. Now you want to make sure that you get out of the square root, okay? You want to arrow over. Now that is all in the top of the fraction, so we're going to put another parentheses. And we're going to divide it by parentheses the bottom, 2 times 1. So our first answer, x equals 5. But we have another answer because it's plus or minus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up to this right here, and I'm going to select it, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to scroll over, and I'm going to change that plus at the very beginning to a minus, and it gives me 4. So these are my answers, x equals 5 and x equals 4. There's 2 answers to these quadratic problems. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there for just a second so that you can see it. And then I'm going to work one more of these problems with you. Or maybe 2. We'll see. Okay. So for problems like number 21, notice that everything is not all on one side like it was here. It has to all equal 0 in order for you to start this process. So you have to move everything over. So I want to move this x over by subtracting it. So I'd have x squared minus 10x equals 24. And then I also want to move the 24 over by subtracting it. So I'd have x squared minus 10x minus 24 equals 0. Where a is 1, b is negative 10, and c is negative 24. So we're going to plug it into our Pythagorean theorem now. So x is going to equal, we're going to take a negative b, so a positive 10, plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So now remember, plug it in just like you did the other way on number 19. Plug it into your calculator. So I'm going to show you another way on these calculators to do it. It just has to be an updated calculator, which all of yours should be. So what you're going to do, let me figure it out, it's been a while. I think it's second, why, no, never mind. Let me figure it out really quick, hang on. Okay. So you're going to press alpha, which is this little green key here. You're going to hit alpha, y equals, and it'll pull up this little menu. And notice number 1, it says n divided by d. You're going to hit enter on that, and it's going to pull up a little fraction here. So now you can see you're in the top part of the fraction. You're going to type in 10 plus the square root, parenthesis negative 10, close parenthesis squared, minus 4 times 1 times the negative 24. And now I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the fraction. And I'm going to put 2 times 1 in the bottom of the fraction there. And it will give me 12. So that's one of my answers. Okay? So now all I have to do is scroll up in my calculator and grab what I just typed in, scroll over, and change that plus to a minus. And I get negative 2. So those are the ways that you can type it into your calculator. Okay, so the next one actually, number 23. You actually have to FOIL before you do anything. So I'm going to help you set it up, but then you're going to solve it on your own. So you're going to FOIL first. First would give you x squared. The outer would give you negative 4x. The inner would give you positive x. And the last would give you negative 4. So combine your like terms. You want to move that 6 over because you want it to equal 0. Okay? So your A is 1, your B is negative 3, your C is negative 10. And you're going to plug it into your quadratic equation and solve. Okay, so you are going to finish up the rest of this page today. So go ahead and start working quietly, please.